Buongiorno again from the library of the Cineteca of Bologna, the film archive of Bologna, the last day of our fam trips. Two fam trips focused on art and culture of Emilia-Romagna. Well, first of all, let me tell you that in the second fam trip, we'll finally discover all the secrets about this beautiful place, the library of the Cineteca, but the Cineteca itself. Stay with us for the second fam trip as well. In this one, we are focused on the UNESCO World Heritage Sites of Emilia-Romagna. Well, in Italy, we have 55 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and in Emilia-Romagna, there are 3 cities with this nomination. We have 2 creative cities and different 7 cultural and natural spots located, spread out in Emilia-Romagna. We start our journey through the UNESCO Heritage Sites from Ravenna. Well, why Ravenna? Because Ravenna, with only 150,000 inhabitants, has 8 monuments that UNESCO recognized as World Heritages. Well, to talk about Ravenna, I'm glad to introduce Angela Izzo of Flamingo Travel, an incoming agency of Ravenna. Angela, why is Ravenna so important? Tell us more about these 8 monuments of Ravenna.
In 1996, UNESCO added 8 religious buildings of the city of Ravenna in its list, thanks to the outstanding value of this building. Ravenna is a small city located on the northern coast of the Adriatic Sea, and this proximity to water has had a fundamental importance during its past. These religious buildings were built between the 5th and the 6th century AD, and there are added in this list 3 churches, 2 baptistries, 1 chapel and 2 mausoleums. Ravenna became capital 3 times in this golden age past. The first time, in 402, Ravenna became the capital of the Western Roman Empire, then the capital of a barbarian kingdom, and later a very important city for the reconquest of the Roman Empire from the eastern part of the world, from the Emperor Justinian. And this golden age has left Ravenna with this great heritage of religious buildings. And all 7 of these 8 buildings are decorated with mosaic. Regarding the first part of the first time Ravenna was capital, we had the beautiful mausoleum of Galla Placidia, who was the successor of his brother Honorius, who transferred the capital from Milan to Ravenna in 402. Later, we had a 33 years domination of a barbarian king, Theodoric the Great, and he followed a different religion from Christianism, and nowadays you can visit 3 different monuments built during his age. The Arian Baptistry, the Church of Sant'Apollinare Nuovo, and the Mausoleum of Theodoric. After his death, his successor had to deal with the army of Justinian, who wanted to unify the empire under a single control, and also unify the Christian religion all over the empire. And this Byzantine period is probably the most important of our city, in which great basilicas were built, the Church of San Vitale and the Basilica of Sant'Apollinare Nuovo. 7 of these buildings are decorated with mosaic.
Sure, and let me tell you that all people arriving in Ravenna and watching these stunning monuments, they are completely surprised to find this kind of beauty. Oh, even for those who are not really fanatic of churches, for those who don't travel to look all the churches around Italy, well, the one in Ravenna are really unique. But talking about mosaic, the tradition of mosaic in Ravenna continued through the centuries, and it is witnessed nowadays in many workshops that we can find in the city center, places where you can learn to see how they do mosaics, or even to learn how to do a mosaic by yourself.
Yes, absolutely, it's true. In Ravenna, you have many occasions to just to observe, visiting one of the workshop laboratory in Ravenna, but also if you want, you can learn doing this mosaic decoration. Mosaic decoration is made of tiny pieces of gold. When you use, especially when you use this kind of decoration to decorate the ceiling, for example, all these religious buildings are decorated with this small tesserae of gold. And in the past, it was especially used the gold tesserae that is made of 3 parts, 2 pieces of clear glass, and inside there is a leaf gold all fused together.
Yeah, that's important, that it's not so obvious. Maybe people think that is a golden color, but the original one on the churches, they are really, they have a tiny golden leaf in between the two glass parts.
All fused together.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And in the past, gold was used to remember the light and to remember God, of course. We are talking of religious buildings, and the use of this gold was to remember the light and God, definitely.
Yeah, right. You said, well, we see that the mosaics are very, very ancient. So Ravenna was already an artistic town, art town. In the past, it was recognized as cultural town in the past as well. And this is the reason why many, many historical characters passed through Ravenna and used to spend some time in Ravenna. Can you give us some example?
Yes, some example. For example, the English poet Lord Byron visited Ravenna, but also he stayed in Ravenna for some years, where he wrote his poem. He used to ride every day in the pine wood of Ravenna, and he came to Ravenna because he was invited by this young woman, Teresa Guiccioli. And later, also the novelist Henry James visited Ravenna, and he was impressed, he was fascinated by the light of the church of Santa Apollinare in Classe, who was built during the Byzantine period, when Ravenna was capital of this Byzantine Empire. Then we had also Gustav Jung visited twice Ravenna, and the second time when he came back, he had a vision remembering one of the baptistry of Ravenna, the Orthodox baptistry. And later, Gustav Klimt, the Austrian painter, he traveled twice to Ravenna, and during the second time, the gold tesserae fascinated him, and especially is the golden period of his paintings.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So he was inspired
Absolutely.
by the presence of so much gold of the mosaics, and this is the reason why there is so much gold in his painting as well. Oh,
Absolutely.
that's a good story. Very interesting. Okay. And there is another very, very famous historical character who lived in Ravenna, not for his choice, but he did.
Yeah. Last but not least, Dante Alighieri spent the last 3 years of his life in Ravenna, because he was exiled from Florence, and he was hosted in Ravenna by Guido Novello da Polenta. In this period was important for him because he finished to write his the third part of his comedy, And of course, unfortunately, he died in Ravenna in 1321, the 13th of September. And every year there are celebrations on Dante Alighieri. And
but dying in 1321.
Yeah, we already started to celebrate the next year celebrations, because next year will be 700 years from the death of Dante Alighieri. And last September, at the beginning of this month, the Italian President Sergio Mattarella inaugurated the tomb of Dante Alighieri after 5 months of restoration works. And all this celebration will last one year long until next year, and will be ended on the 3rd of September, because every year there is a day that is the second Sunday of September is dedicated to Dante Alighieri, and there is this annual ceremony where we host a delegation coming from Florence with this suggestive celebration, that is the oil ceremony. We don't want to give back the remains of Dante Alighieri, but allow Florentine people to offer us the olive oil to be used in the votive lamp that is inside the tomb of Dante Alighieri.
Yeah, this is a very ancient trial between Florence and Ravenna, but the tomb of Dante stays in Ravenna. That's 100% for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I confirm.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
you.
Angela. We remind you that for any further question you would like to make to our guest, we have a question time at the end of all presentation. But we move northwards to Ferrara, a wonderful city nominated by UNESCO as City of Renaissance and its Po Delta. And to explain something more about Ferrara, we have Chiara Chiari from the Tourist Guide Association of Ferrara. So, City of Renaissance, tell us something more about the history.
Yes, I will shortly introduce you to some of the monuments that you can visit if you come to Ferrara. Ferrara still preserves most of its Renaissance and medieval areas, and the city was already started on the River Po, where its delta starts right at the beginning of the Po Delta, more than 1,000 years ago. So the first merchants coming to the river wanted to develop their trade and their business, and they wanted to exploit the several branches of the Po that left and still live from Ferrara. And what they did was build a series of piazzas and a series of narrow and winding streets that would lead from the river to the places where they would hold their markets every time. And of course, soon after that, soon after building all the shops and everything they needed for trade, they built a huge and stunning cathedral that is right in the city center, still in Romanesque and Gothic style.
This is the one.
Yeah, this
really
is
stunning.
the one right in the city center. Then, of course, immediately as the family of Este, the signori, arrived, they wanted to settle down right in front of this cathedral, right in the city center where business was taking place.
Well, here we are, the Este family. Some of the person of the Este family already drawn in the TV series The Borgia, which was very renowned worldwide.
Yes, of course.
But the Este family, who ruled Ferrara for many, many years, is left some of the most important traces in the city.
Yeah, it's really interesting to come and see once again the places, the apartments, the areas and the manors where Lucrezia Borgia lived together with her husband Alfonso I, Duke of Ferrara. And you have to consider that by that time the Este were amongst the most famous signorie in Italy and in Europe, and they showed it by the building of their castle, which is still completely open to public. So you can see the jails dating back to the Middle Ages. You can see the kitchens where Mrs. Bugo worked, one of the beginners of the chef fashion, let's say, of these times. And then also all the apartments that the different dukes built for themselves and for their famous wives. In fact, Ferrara is also a city of ladies, famous ladies, not only Lucrezia Borgia, but also Isabella, Gonzaga, and also Eleonora of Aragon. But, well, talking about buildings, talking about the main sites that you can have in Ferrara, of course, it's a unique place because there you can still see what living in the Renaissance was like. So the city still preserves its old and perspective and wide roads, and in each road you have a series of big buildings and palaces and also gardens, and each garden was an immediate and direct part of the palace and building. So the Este stated a creative way of life, a Renaissance humanistic way of life that went on not only from the old city, from the Middle Ages, but also went on into the Renaissance. And you can, if you come to Ferrara, you can immediately see the difference between what life was like in the Middle Ages and what life became like in the Renaissance. So we still have these leafy neighborhoods. We have the longest walls in Italy that were part of the Herculean edition, and where you can ride bikes, you can walk on them. They are just like green areas now all around the city. But these walls are part of a bigger plan by the Duke Ercole, the Herculean edition that includes the old city, the medieval city, the Renaissance city, and they connect the city to the landscape and to the countryside.
Yeah, wonderful. They were like an example for many other European
absolutely,
cities.
Yeah, absolutely. We can say that a lot of the ideas that were then developed and applied in a lot of European cities started from Ferrara. So it was a kind of hub, workshop in a way where new ideas could be applied thanks to the government of the Este family, who led a multicultural and open society and city.
Okay. And the Este traces can be witnessed not only in the city center of Ferrara, but there are also many wonderful buildings in the surrounding, in the hinterland.
Yes, of course, yes, because the Este family thought that they had to be recognized by everyone they governed. In a way, they were extremely modern from that point of view. So their faces, who they were, their popularity had to be acknowledged all over the territory. So they built the so-called delizie, that is rural villas where the court would spend their free time and where they would spend some periods of the year there. And these delizie could be, of course, reached by boat, because let's remember that Ferrara is all one with its river, all one with its territory. So these delizie were reached by the court on their boats, and they're part of a style of life that was typical of the age. And besides that, together with the delizie, if you come to our landscape, to our territory, you can have both these beautiful buildings that still talk to us about architecture and urban schemes of the Renaissance, but then you can also have an incredible natural environment with a part of it that has been developed into countryside. Of course, now we are an agricultural province, basically, but then a lot has remained that is still part of the Po Delta Park, and the Po Delta is maybe the largest wetland that we have in Italy.
In Italy, definitely, yeah. Well, very fascinating history of the town and the surrounding, definitely. And we move southwards, skipping Ravenna, obviously, we already talked about it. We arrived in Cesena, a small town. I don't know how many among you heard about Cesena, but it has a nomination by UNESCO as Memory of the World. There are only 8 sites in Italy with this recognized as memory of the world, and in particular, it is the library of Cesena, the ancient Malatesta library of Cesena. Well, a library actually is a memory of the world, thanks to the volume that are inside. And we will talk about it with Emiliano Ceredi of the Tourist Office of Cesena. Emiliano, tell us something more about this fascinating library.
Yes, the library was donated by the Lord of Cesena, Malatesta Novello, in 1454, when the library opened. Malatesta Novello was very fond of books. He loved books. He fell in love with culture and books. And actually, he spent a lot of his assets in order to build the library and, of course, to acquire.
I interrupted because now we are seeing where
Yeah.
Cesena is. As I was saying, it's not so much known, so we have an idea.
I was following you.
Go on.
This is the library in the very heart of the town center. And this is the main hall, the reading hall. And the particular thing is that this hall is remained just the same as it was in 15th century. That's the reason why it was included in Memory of the World UNESCO Register. And also because it was the first civic public library in the world. Yeah, 2 keys, of course, to open it, because one was held by the monks and one by the town's councillors. Yeah, and when you step inside, you go, this is a middle-aged movie. Yeah, this is the Lord of Cesena, and this is the portal, and of course the logo, shall we say, of the Malatesta, powerful Malatesta family. Indian elephant does not fear mosquitoes. He is more powerful than his enemies. Everything inside is original. So the green ceiling, the red floor and desks, and the white columns, the 3 colors of Malatesta family. So I was telling you, do you know how much a book would cost in those days?
Oh, I have no idea.
Try to guess.
No idea at all.
Okay, an entire house.
Wow.
Yeah. In this library, there are 384 books, manuscripts, of course, and made of parchment. Pages are made of goat skins.
Oh, okay. So the value is not only because they are so old, but in past times, books were so prestigious, so only very rich people could afford to buy a book.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why this library is so important. This library was public.
Right, and well, with so many ancient books, I guess it is quite hard to preserve it. You need to have a place to make sure that these books still comes in a right condition to us.
Absolutely, yes. We have a studio entirely dedicated to preserve and to restore ancient books. And that can be also visited as the Malatesta Library. It is not inside the library, it is in the Abbey of Santa Maria del Monte, quite near to the town center.
Okay, so monks are dedicated to
not monks, they are technicians, actually.
Oh, okay, yeah,
but,
sure.
you know...
but it's inside the Abbey anyway.
In the old days, only monks could, of course. Yeah.
Used to.
But we put it there because, you know, the tradition is important.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Cesena, not only library, it's a lively city full of events, full of cultural and public events, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. We have many events during the year. For instance, about sport and related to food, of course. There's one of the most important street food festival, international street food festival, that I think in the first day of October, but of course not this year, maybe next year.
Okay, okay, but it's very popular anyway. People come from
Absolutely, from all over the world. Absolutely,
yeah,
yes.
because
Yeah.
there are booths from all over the world. It's very interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, but well, there is another place in well, not in Cesena, close to Cesena,
Yeah.
that hosts ancient objects. In this case, they are not books, but what are they? What kind of objects?
Very strange and peculiar objects. Mechanical music instruments.
Okay.
Yeah, a curious phenomenon, cultural phenomenon, and there's a museum entirely dedicated to this particular phenomenon. It's the only one in Italy entirely dedicated to mechanical music. It's on the first hills near Cesena, in a place, in a mansion called Villa Silvia Carducci. Yeah, with incredible devices, musical devices. Everything in this museum can play music, from relatively small portable organs to hurdy-gurdies and to enormous organs that can reproduce entire orchestras. And, of course, Leonardo da Vinci is so important. That's the sketch of this project. This is the mechanical drum, mechanical marching drum. It's built after Leonardo's sketches with the techniques of those days and the materials of those days. And it was very useful because it could save the tambourines' lives. Because in the battles, tambourines were the first to die, yeah, for them. But with this device, some lives could be saved. Yeah,
yeah. When
it was important because it was meant to keep the rhythm of the marching troops, of course.
Sure, sure. Yeah, when there is something mechanical related to the past times, Leonardo da Vinci is involved somehow.
Absolutely, and Leonardo is very important for Cesena because in his sort of grand tour after his leader, the Duke of Valentino and the Duke of Romagna, Cesare Borgia, he came to Cesena, and everywhere he described and took sketches of what he saw. For instance, of the Malatesta fortress, La Rocca Malatestiana, and Leonardo also gave some advices in order to improve the walls, and you can still today admire an enormous wall, the southern wall of the Rocca, and it's the fortress, and it's made after the suggestions of Leonardo.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you, Emiliano.
Thank you, Silvia.
So we are on the Via Emilia back again, and we move in direction to Bologna. Bologna is the capital city of Emilia-Romagna. We already said it in the last days. Is the gateway, the main access to the region with international airport, a very important tourist and traffic hub of the region and of Italy, thanks to the motorway, cross-section and railway station. But Bologna is also a creative city of music. We have another creative city, which is Parma. It is creative city of gastronomy. We saw it in the second FAM trip. Before talking about this nomination, I would like also to mention that Bologna has nominated its porticos, its arcades. In Bologna, there are 42 kilometers of porticos, arcades, in different styles, built in different ages, but 42 in total, 38 in the city center, plus 4 going from the city center up to the Basilica of San Luca. It's something really unique and very, very peculiar. But let's go to the creative city of music. To talk about Bologna in this aspect, I have a guest, the marketing manager Maurizio Boschini of the Teatro Comunale of Bologna, which is the opera house of Bologna. Maurizio, before going to the beautiful opera house, can you tell us just very quickly, can you mention us some other special places in Bologna that gave this nomination as Creative City of Music?
Okay, Silvia, thank you. Thank you very much. I like to think that Bologna is in the middle of the region, but is also in the middle of the music. So we are in the middle of our life, there is the music, and Bologna is in the middle of the middle, let me say. But as you can see now, Bologna, yes, is in the middle of the region, and you introduced very well how it's very well connected with all the rest of the region and other important city in Italy. What is important for us is the history, because the music is the history of Bologna. And just to start with something that is now happening, there are the celebration now because Mozart 250 years ago came to Bologna, and you can see the proof that Mozart did that during his stage before and during the examination that he made here with Padre Martini, when he was 14 years old, he became officially a compositor, so a real musician. And this was the first time that he came here, but he came here a lot of times later, because Bologna was in the center of the music, and it was very important to be here to become a musician too. And
so it was a very important part of Mozart's life. He was only 14,
yes,
but after this examination, he became officially a composer.
This is true, and this is very important. This happened October 1770, so wow. 250 years ago.
Okay.
And I repeat, now we have the celebration, and
sure.
The celebration are in the Accademia Filarmonica, that is one of the city of the part of our network, because there is a real network between the opera theater, the Accademia Filarmonica, also the Museum of the Music, and the Collezione Tagliavini. So there is a network that is possible to visit all together, and we like to work together. Not only for the theater, for the promotion of the theater, but also for the promotion, for example, of Accademia Filarmonica.
Yeah, sure. Just to give an idea of the importance in history that Bologna had for music.
I give you a practical example. On 7 October, there will be a dinner in our theater, but it's a dinner with the style of Mozart age. So it's a dinner when all is cooking like was during the Mozart period.
Okay, they will prepare special menus,
correct.
Yeah, so that they found related to that age.
Correct.
Okay,
but let me introduce our theater, the Opera Theater
please.
of Bologna. Was built in 1763, and you see it's like a bell. It's fantastic for the acoustic, because if there is a singer, it's like to sing inside the bell. So the sound is fantastic, let me say. And this is one of the most ancient theater in Italy, but all over Europe. But I believe it's the first theater that is public theater, because comunale means the theater of the community, of the city. It's not the royal theater, but
sure.
it is the theater of the community. And this is very, very nice, but it's something that we continue to have. So it's not a city for ourselves, it's a city for everybody. It's a theater for everybody. It's a theater for the city, for the public, for the visitors. And so we love this style. And the theater is very open, not only for music, but also for visits, for some possible meetings, for everything.
Yeah, it is true. We have to say that in Emilia-Romagna there is a very strong tradition of opera, music in general. There are many important artists who were born in Emilia-Romagna. There are many opera houses in many other art cities of the region, and well, the one in Bologna is one huge example. But it is true that all of them, they have a rich calendar of events, and people really love to go to theater. It's very popular in Emilia-Romagna.
You're right, Silvia, and also speaking about the history of our theater, is full of very important musicians, like Gluck was the first one at the beginning, because when there was the opening in 1763, he was the first one, but there are also other important, like Rossini, like Verdi, Wagner is very important for us because this is a theater where Wagner was very, very appreciated, and we continue to have a lot of production of Wagner, and people here in Bologna love Wagner very much. And also other musicians like Respighi stay in Bologna and stay in our theater, so really we can say we are in the center of the music.
Right, okay, very interesting. Let me add only that Bologna is famous not only for classical music, opera, but also in modern times for jazz festival. There is a yearly jazz festival who takes place every year in summer. And it's, the events, the concerts are in the narrow street of the city center. So you can just sit down in the different restaurants that are in the city center enjoying the concert.
Yes, and this is a funny history I would like to tell you. A big number of our musicians, of our professors, of our orchestra play also jazz. So you can enter in Cantina Bentivoglio, for example, you can enter in some other halls and you find someone that played the classic music before and later play jazz music.
Which is not so
not
usual.
So, no, but...
they're a very good musician, we have to say, yeah.
So we love the music
very
much.
Very proud of them, I can imagine. Thank you, Maurizio.
You're welcome.
Okay, staying on the Via Emilia, not far from Bologna, we arrived to Modena. We spoke about Modena for food, for the Motor Valley, but Modena is also a very cultural city. It's the third site of a UNESCO World Heritage Site for the Piazza Maggiore. It's a wonderful square, the cathedral and the bell tower next to it. With us, there is Enrico Bonaccini of Modena Tour, an incoming agency based in Modena. Enrico.
Thank you, Silvia. Modena is the heart of the Emilia-Romagna region. It boasts a very important UNESCO site that leaves our visitor generally greatly impressed, but is also much loved by Modena citizens themselves, as it certainly is the beating and the vital heart of the city. Here we are Modena. Modena is very close to Bologna and Parma. The UNESCO site of Modena includes the cathedral, the bell tower, Ghirlandina, and the main square itself, Piazza Grande. The quadrangular piazza has remained in a perfect state of conservation even up to today, and is still the core of the city. It is used for special events such as festival, concert, cultural appointment, open-air food market. On the other hand, the cathedral, which was founded in 1099, is one of the best examples of Romanesque art in its highest form. It influenced the Romanesque style in northern Italy and Europe in the decades to come. The cathedral is covered by reliefs, allegorical depiction, very, very famous by Viligelmo. And these reliefs present on the main facade and in the interiors as well, during the Middle Age, allowed poor people generally who could not read, to learn something about the history of Modena, about the Bible. And still today, people
we can say that they are like ancient emoticons.
Yeah, exactly.
They can be considered. Just small designs, small figures, so they can understand what was happening, the history of the town, wasn't it?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, it's true. They're really, really expressive and evocative. And people used to stay in front of the facade also today to admire these reliefs because they are really, really beautiful. And this is why we used to call the cathedral the book made of stone, as you perfectly said.
Okay.
The UNESCO site, and for the beauty of its architecture, for the reliefs, is an important destination for lovers of art and architectural history, but also for simple lovers of beautiful things. The city skyline is no less characterized by the Ghirlandina Tower, tall 100 meters. It is possible to see the hall where the keepers of the tower lived in the medieval ages at 60 meters high, from where it is possible to see a splendid panorama of the city from above, but also on the clear days of the surroundings, in the countryside, of the Apennines in the south to the Alps to the north. So we can consider the UNESCO site as a central point from which then it's also possible to go outside.
Exactly, as in many other cities that we already mentioned, is all the cultural, historical buildings can be admired not only in the city center, but in the beautiful hinterland as well.
Yeah, exactly. The province of Modena is very rich in very attractive places. Lovers of art and architecture can also go outside. There are many examples of medieval architecture like castles, churches. We can say that these historical sites are located in equally beautiful locations from a landscape point of view. People can combine the visits in these places with other visits in some food producers on the way. This part of the province is also very famous for its very good food, like Parmigiano cheese, balsamic vinegar. There are many cheese dairies and vinegar producers that you can also see. In the meantime, you're on the way to see these beautiful places. This is another one. This is the Abbey of Nonantola, another very important example of Romanesque style. And then here we have the wonderful Piazza of Carpi, one of the largest square in Italy.
Right.
Here's another view.
But let's go back to the connection of this city of Modena and music, because here we also need to mention sorry, an important son of this city, who is Luciano Pavarotti. He used to live all over the world, obviously due to his work. He used to sing all over the world, so worldwide renowned. But he was so proud of its Modenese roots. He used to come back very, very often to Modena.
Yes, correct. There are other famous personalities that were born in Modena. One of them is Luciano Pavarotti, as you correctly said. Is internationally renowned, but he always had a very strong connection with the city. In Modena, there are many fascinating places related to Luciano Pavarotti and classical music. One of them is the Pavarotti House Museum, so where he lived in his last years. Is a wonderful villa in the countryside, not far away from Modena. It was designed by following the drawings and the instruction that Pavarotti gave to the architects. The house is full of artifacts made by blacksmiths, carpenters, carvers, decorators, who came to Modena from all over Italy to realize a unique product. The house is full of personal items, the costumes, memorabilia, yes, videos, pictures, of course the awards that have marked his great artistic career of over 40 years spent in the opera houses all around the world.
Yeah, sure. Let me tell you, if it, for some of you, could seem a bit strange to visit the house of a person who's not an historical person, actually he died a few years ago, it might be strange, but all people who visited it, they loved the atmosphere and they appreciated the man behind the artist. There is one special place with all the letters and postcards that he received, and
yeah, exactly.
I saw people stopping there and reading all of them. So many loving words that, I mean, you can really witness that he was so beloved, not only as an artist, but as a man as well. It was really an inspiration for many, many people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So these are some examples of art and culture in our region. Let me check if we received some question. Oh, yes, we did. For Emiliano, in Cesena, do you provide guide service, so guided tours inside the library and Museum of Mechanical Instrument? Or does each site provide its own guide service?
That's an interesting question, very important one, because absolutely yes, there's a guide inside the library and a guide inside the Mechanical Music Museum and another one in the fortress, absolutely, internal guides. Indeed, the visit of the library and of the mechanical music, you know, the guide is mandatory. You have to take a guided tour. You cannot step inside without a guide, especially in the Malatestan library.
Yes, sure. That you need to go with someone specialized to know where to go, where to walk, and so on.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Then. Always for Emiliano, the museum and library are open to visitors now. Well, let's stay in the strangest situation.
Absolutely.
Did they already reopen?
Yes, yes, they did. And you can visit them, of course. And of course, there are some limitations in these days. For instance, in the Malatestan library, only 6 people are allowed. Okay. But there are many turns during the day, and with a guide, of course.
Right.
Yeah, only 6 people, and only on reservation.
Okay.
In these days.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Emiliano. Okay. I have the same question also for Maurizio. What about, you mentioned it is possible to visit the Opera House, the Opera Theatre in Bologna. Is it already possible now to organize visits?
Yes, of course. So we are open for visit. We have our guide. Is possible to do 3 days per week, but it's possible also to organize with in other guide, external guides, all the other days, excluding Monday.
Right, okay. Let me tell you, in general, after the reopening of all places of interest, it is always better to ask before the right timetables, where to go, when to go, to book in advance. But generally, everything has reopened in Emilia-Romagna, we can assure you. Museums, art exhibition, all places of interest, but always check before. Then, always for Maurizio, the opera, always concerning this strange situation. What about the next opera or music season in theater?
We have a season that is based on the annual year. So our season is not, for example, 2019, 2020, but is 2020. So the end of this season is continuing. We are still working now. For example, this evening we have an exhibition, and it's possible, this is sure for the end of the year. And we are forecasting the new season for the 2021. So absolutely, yes, we are working, and we are very happy to continue to do it.
Yeah, slowly but surely, we are going into it. For Angela, talking about the Dante celebration, for Angela of Ravenna, who's coming back, during Dante celebration in Ravenna, are there any music events also? Or what kind of events are they scheduled?
Okay, we have an important international music festival that is called Ravenna Festival. The first time it was about 30 years ago, And next year, at the end of the celebration, of the yearly celebration for Dante Alighieri, there will be a great concert by Maestro Muti, the music director, in San Francesco Square, that is the square next to the tomb of Dante Alighieri. And this is at the end of all the celebration. But also during the year, there are always concerts, especially this year, part of them dedicated to Dante Alighieri.
Let me tell you about the Ravenna Festival in Ravenna. Usually the concert takes place in the beautiful venues that are the buildings decorated with mosaics. Due to the situation, this year they were all open air, organized open air, but the great news was that you could follow them on the website of Ravenna Festival. They stayed there in streaming for 2 months. That's a great news. It never happened before, so they gave the opportunity to see it staying home, staying safe home, to admire the beautiful concert. It was something really unique. And well, for Chiara, talking about events, musical events, whatever kind of events, you told us so many beautiful things about the history of Ferrara, but nowadays, are there something special that we can admire in Ferrara?
Yes, of course. In Ferrara, we may say that you can find something in every season, something for every season and something for everyone. We also have an important comunale theater, and we have an important music and opera festival too. But at the same time, probably the most famous event that takes place in Ferrara in the month of May is its Palio, one of the oldest in Italy, and where you have horse races, donkey races, and where you have an incredibly long parade with more than 1,000 people dressed up like in the Renaissance and in style. But then we still have modern music, as you were saying before. And so in the last week of August, we have the Buskers Festival. That is a moment when the city is totally open to music, and whoever likes to play something, to say something, comes there and has his own public. And then maybe something that is extremely stunning when you see it is the so-called Fire of the Castle on the last Year's Eve. So you can come to Ferrara, and even if it's cold, the atmosphere gets really hot because you can drink something around while you see the Castle of the Este maybe taking fire under these incredible fireworks over there. So
okay, so very lively city anyway. Okay, thank you so much. I hope you took a great inspiration for so many information we received. We will go on about art and culture in the next and last fam trip of the day and of 3 days. At 5:30 is the next appointment with culture, cinema and entertainment. We will finally find out where we are. We will know something more about this place and some other very special places of the region. Stay with us. Don't miss the last one. So, arrivederci. Thank you.